Hello everyone, I'm Rafael and I'd like to talk about our VR drum simulator project that Willie and I developed for this course. Willie basically helped with some feedback during our in-person project meetings, and I did all the development and design of the software within Unity, and I also found the assets both for the sounds and the 3D models that were included in the project. So the main goals of the project were to, first of all, develop a drum simulator with realistic sound feedback, meaning that the harder you hit on the drums, the louder the sound plays, and potentially making different sounds depending on how fast you hit or how strong you hit. And also, like, the main goal since the beginning was to make it feel very good to play, and the collisions feel nice, which mean trying to have minimal input delay. So I played around with Unity to try to achieve that, both for sounds and for the graphics. And in the end, I also wanted to create this realistic room that the user will feel that they're actually in a real environment playing drums. So here I'm gonna showcase the video I recorded playing, and highlight some of the main features as we go. So first of all, yeah, you can see there's this ray coming from the controller, so that's the way I found would be the easier to grab the drumsticks. So here I have two pairs of drumsticks. Basically, the wooden ones play normal, regular drum sounds, and the glowing ones play some different, like some crazy sounds. I was trying to do some 8-bit sound theme, but the main feature here is that different drumsticks play different sounds. And so yeah, as soon as you grab the drumsticks, the ray vanishes, so it's less glaring to the eye, and the user feels like better. Um, Yeah, so here is just showcasing, first of all, how even if you hit fast, it still computes fairly well. I was really happy with the result. And also the visual feedback. So for that, I created spotlights inside each of the drums, or above each of the drums. And when the user hits it, the spotlight turns on and then fades out slowly. So it gives this nice effect that you're hitting something. And it's sort of like a visual feedback for the user. And also, I don't know how clear it is from this video, but the harder you hit the drums, the louder it plays. And there's also a threshold for how like weak you can play, so it computes as a hit. And I did that trying to create this trade-off between computing all the fast collisions that the user is playing when they want to actually hit a drum, but also not computing something that the user didn't mean to, and they're just like hanging around with the drumsticks, and by mistake it computes as a hit. And so yeah, I was trying to balance this trade-off, and there's a threshold for how fast, and I detect how fast the user is moving the sticks by the speed of the drumstick head. That's the way I found to make it the most the best as possible. And you can also see some basic props in the scene, so it feels more comfy. I'm gonna later highlight some of the other environments that I developed for this project as well. Yeah, so there the last bit was a really nice showcase of how, like, if you hit weakly, it plays like more softly, and if you hit harder, it plays harder. So this dynamic is what I was trying to achieve as best as possible, like since the beginning. Like, more important than visuals or anything else was to have this sound feedback as feeling bright as possible. So if the user hit a button on the controller, it changes the environment. So I was just trying to play around with different light settings, ambient lighting, sky boxes, and this, I created this emitter, and I was playing around with light. I thought it was really fun, and created these different environments. So it feels good to be there as well. Oops, I'm sorry. So yeah, I was here. Yeah, so the bass drum was actually a challenge. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that later. But you hit the bass drum using a right trigger. That's not ideal, but that's the way I found to do it without using external peripherals. And in this room, it does kind of like a light show. So the faster you hit the drums, the more spotlights appear on the wall. And if you hit the crash symbol, it appears like it shows a bunch of different spotlights. It's just like a fun little experiment with lights that I thought it was cool to include. And yeah, if you throw the drumsticks, they collide with basically any props in the environment as well. So here I'm grabbing the glow sticks and they turn it down a little. They play this kind of 8-bit sounds that I created using a website, a tool that I'm gonna credit later as well. It sounds terrible, but it's just something fun. I could just like use some different samples and play around with it, but the base structure is there. You could just like create more things with it later. Yeah, so basically that's it. That's a demo of how the project feels like to use. And I was overall really happy with the final product. I received some really positive feedbacks during the demos of people wanting to try it out and feeling like, and they said it felt really good to play. And even I personally like I really miss playing drums in real life, and I don't have a drum set in my apartment. So sometimes when I want to play, I just hop into the VR and play around, and it feels good. It kind of scratches that itch of wanting to play drums. Even like for me that already play drums, it still feels nice and feels pretty realistic. Of course, there are some caveats like that. Not everything that you could do in real drums, you could possibly do in VR without external peripherals. So a good example is doing drum rolls, and because it requires the rebound that you get when hitting the drumsticks on the drums, and you get some sort of rebounds, and you can use that to hit the drums pretty fast. And that of course is impossible to do with the VR controllers because you're basically moving just with your wrists and you don't have any sort of force feedback other than the haptics. Yeah, I forgot to mention, but I implemented some simple vibrations whenever you hit, and they vibrate more when you hit stronger. But that still doesn't like affect the physics of the real your real hand touching the drum. So some things you could do in the real drum set you cannot do in VR without external pads or something like that. Um, Capturing fast collisions, as I said, required a lot of fine tuning, so that was really challenging. But I'm still pretty happy with the final result. I feel it computes all the most of the collisions that I want really nicely, and it doesn't double hit anymore. I fine tuned that a little. And of course, as I said before, like simulating bass drum without having inputs coming from your feet or your legs is just impossible with just the hand controllers. So using the trigger, I was just trying to make it possible, but not realistic because I know it wouldn't be possible without external peripherals. So with that, for the next steps, I really like to try and test using external pedals like Rock Band, for example, for the bass drum. Also implementing some more realistic physics for the cymbals and they won't wobble around when you hit them instead of just staying static. The main thing I would like to develop, and I think would be really nice to have, is this idea of a practice room with some sort of virtual instructor that shows beats that you can play on time, and the user chooses the BPM they want to play in and the different beats, and they can try to follow along, and if they hit the right drum in the right time, they earn points and know that they're doing it right. And that's hopefully for beginners that never played drums before, that they can learn new rhythms and learn beats and learn how to play with this kind of virtual instructor. And I think that would be really valuable, and I really want to implement that if I have more time to play around with this project in the future. And of course, I would really like to send the application to other people, both people that don't play drums and more experienced drummers, to have feedbacks on how it feels like, and hopefully publish on the Meta or Steam store. So with that, these are the some credits for these are the assets that I use, both for the sounds and the 3D models that I use inside the project. And with that, thanks so much for listening.